Hey y'all, Pastor Sam here, and welcome to the Sermon Cast for First Christian Church in Hammond, Louisiana. Here at FCC Hammond, we are a gathering of Jesus followers caught up in this crazy Jesus movement seeking to bring healing and wholeness to our fractured world. We hope you find this message meaningful and encouraging. We would love to connect with you to answer any questions you might have about us, Jesus, or just life in general. How you can contact us can be found in the description below. Just remember, God loves you, we love you. May you experience grace and peace in your journey today and every day. And now, the Sermon Cast.
Well, today we're so blessed to have with us someone most of us know or know of in our community. She's made such an impact in the last few years with what we call the shower ministry. And the first time I heard that, I thought, shower ministry. They give showers to unwed mothers, or to be but I was so excited to learn more about this program and see it blossom really right in front of our eyes. So some of you may know Donna Gay Anderson as a theater person, as an author, playwright, an activist, a strong member of our community. I also know she's a singer. We sang in the community Thanksgiving service together. And so I have a feeling we only know a little slice of Donna Gay. I'm so glad that she's here today to tell us more about this blossoming ministry in our community that is so vital.
Thank you. And thank you for the warm welcome. Let's begin with scripture that beautiful piece of music just presented to you. Listen for the word of the Lord. For I was hungry, and you gave me something to eat. I was thirsty, and you gave me something to drink. I was a stranger, and you invited me in. Naked, you clothed me. I was sick, and you visited me. I was in prison, and you came to me. Then the righteous will answer to him, Lord, when did we see you hungry and feed you, or thirsty, or give you something to drink? And when did we see you a stranger and invite you in, or naked and clothe you? When did we see you sick or in prison and come to you? The king will answer them and say, truly, I say to you, to the extent that you did it to one of these brothers of mine, even the least of them, you did it to me. This is the word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. So as Gina told you, I'm Donna Gay Anderson, and I'm grateful to be here today. And before I start talking about shower ministry, I just have to say I love this church. And I'm grateful to Gina and to Bonnie for inviting me here today. I have been in and out of the doors of this church my entire life, from dance recitals when I was little to theatrical productions, one which was a play I wrote, and most recently, the incredible gospel concert. And I just love that you all have the spirit of Jesus in that you open the doors to the community over and over and over. And that touches my heart. I feel very at home here, so I thank you. I'm an elder at First Presbyterian down the street and have been for a long, long time. And I've done a lot of different things there, but most recently I am the coordinator of a shower ministry. And that ministry is heavily rooted in Matthew 35, Matthew 35, verses 35 through 40. As you heard these beautiful words from the singers here, that is why I do what I do at First Presbyterian. That is the reason, strictly because that's what Jesus instructs us to do. And we all do it in different ways. But when people ask me, why are you doing that? It's dangerous. Why are you doing that? Aren't you afraid? And I always say, pick up your Bible. Matthew 25:35, that's all I have to say. And sometimes I sign correspondence at the bottom with my name and then Matthew 25:35. And that's all I have to say. I have notes here so I can keep it on track. And I've told Gina, if I hit 15 minutes, she's to put her hand up. So I know I need to wrap it up. This started for me in 2016. Remember the flood of 2016? It was awful, right? And I was out of town, and I couldn't come back because of the flood. I couldn't get back, and I felt terrible because I couldn't do anything to help. And I called our pastor at the time, and I said, I can't be there to do anything, but I can organize things from where I am. And he said, just relax. Presbyterians are never the ones to go in initially. You know, the real rock stars in natural disasters are the Baptists and the Mormons. If you see boats, the Baptists and the Mormons are coming in to save the day and get people out of their houses. And that's when I learned about an organization called Presbyterian Disaster Assistance. And I learned that Presbyterians wait till everything settles down. Everybody's gone. And the Presbyterians come in and gut houses and rebuild. And they do it much in the way your congregation does a lot of things, quietly. But we do the work. And I said, great. So I led that effort. And Presbyterian Disaster Assistance started sending teams from all over the country to come in and do the work in the aftermath. And they wanted to be housed in our church. And we said, that's great, but we don't have any showers. So first we brought in showers on a trailer, and that worked okay. But we said, you know, that's pretty uncivilized. So the session of our church agreed to install 2 permanent shower stalls in what was the laundry room. Because we do have a laundry room. We wash, you know, tablecloths and vestments and towels from the kitchen and all that. So we installed those. And for almost 2 years, Presbyterian Disaster Assistance sent teams in. Great, that was wonderful. They did their work, and then they were gone. And the showers were sitting empty. And then Hurricane Ida hit. And when Hurricane Ida hit, my husband and I had just started building a house, and we were living in a friend's guest house in Baptist, in the middle of the woods, in the midst of tall pine trees. And they all came down. And we couldn't get out, and we had no hot water. But we figured out pretty quickly that the black garden hose outside heated water during the day. So every day I would go outside into the woods with that garden hose and shower with a garden hose. I mean, trust me, the deer are traumatized for life. And occasionally, once the trees were cleared and I could get out, I would go knock on the doors of my friends' homes, and I'd say, can I shower? And I carried my little shower caddy everywhere I went, and it got to be a joke, and I did this whole series on Facebook, on my page, about my shower tour, because I was at different friends' homes all the time. But I became acutely aware of the dignity that comes with being able to have a shower whenever you want it, and not having to scratch on someone's door and say, I'm sorry, I'm interrupting your dinner, but can I shower? And so I kept thinking about those showers at the church that were pretty much unused. And then Presbyterian Disaster sent their team, and they were used again for a little while. And then they were gone. And then one summer, my husband and I went to Chicago to get out of the heat, and we rented an apartment for a couple of months and became very active in a church there. It's called First Presbyterian Church on Michigan Avenue. And one day in church, I saw in the bulletin, we need new volunteers for the shower ministry. And I thought, well, that would be a fun thing to do. As Gina thought, I assumed we would be giving baby showers, wedding showers, and I thought we give we get good showers in Louisiana. I know how to do this. And I showed up, and it wasn't that kind of shower at all. So you can imagine the homeless population in Chicago. They were showing up one by one at this church to take a shower. And the coordinator said, you can just watch the first day so you see how we do things. And I watched homeless people come in. I watched how the volunteers treated them, what they did with their carts, because they all had carts. The carts were not allowed inside, but they had somebody guarding them. And I saw them come in and choose a t-shirt and a pair of pants and a brand new pair of underwear and a brand new pair of socks. And they showered, and they turned a timer on, and after the shower, they stepped out, fully dressed in clean clothes, and the volunteers said, do you need to see anybody for services today? And they might say, yeah, I need a dental appointment, or I need to talk to somebody about my Social Security. And there were social workers who met with them. And I sat there and I thought, this is unbelievable what they're doing here. And I kept thinking about those 2 showers. So I went to leadership at my church at the time, and I said, I want to start a shower ministry. And they said, what? And I told them, I said, we're going to bring homeless people here to shower. And I kind of got funny looks, and they said, we don't really have a homeless population here. And so I don't think it's really feasible, and it's making people at the church nervous. And I said, okay. And I thought, when the whole leadership team rolls over, I'll be back. So a few years later, I went back, but this time I consulted with the North Lake Homeless Coalition in Hammond. They're a wonderful, underfunded organization that serves the need of the homeless. And first thing I said was, is there a need? And they said, absolutely. I said, but I don't see them. I see a few of them on 190, because I was living in Baptist, remember? And I was burning a hole in 190. They said, no, those are probably not your target shower guest. And I told them, they call them guests in Chicago, so I wanted us to call them guests. They said, those people you see, the ones wandering up and down the highway, screaming, maybe, they're filthy, maybe they have a knife, they're scary. They said, those people don't know what day it is. Those people cannot get out a calendar, set a goal, make a plan, and follow through. Those people are just doing well to not get hit by a car. But there's an entire population of what we call the invisible homeless. They don't want you to see them. So they stay out of sight. And there are several reasons they don't want you to see them. They don't want to be arrested, because in this community and many, sometimes the police are not very sympathetic. At that time, the Hammond Police Department had an officer in a position called Quality of Life Officer. And I met with her many times. And then they eliminated the position, and there was nobody I could meet with. So I went to our session, which is the governing body of the Presbyterian Church, and I said, Tom and I, my husband and I, want to do this. And you don't have to worry about anything. The 2 of us will do it. We'll provide hygiene products. We will staff it. We will provide towels. Everything that the Chicago church did. And the first day, Tom and I showed up. We put signs out front, and we had a guest, 1. And we did it for a couple more weeks. And then we had 2 guests. And then a couple of people from the church came forth, and they said, I'm not sure about this. I think it's dangerous. What about lice? Do you have a security guard? And I said, well, no, we don't have any of that. What do you do about lice at worship? What do you do about a security guard at worship? They said, well, they might be criminals. They might be right out of jail. I said, well, okay, tell me how you manage those people at worship. And I got dead silence because I kept saying Matthew 25, 35 over and over. So, needless to say, it was approved by the session. Once it was approved, volunteers kept tiptoeing into shower ministry and saying, what can I do? And the next thing I knew, bags of clothes were being left on the doorstep of the church with notes that said, this is for shower ministry. Then I was getting checks. Here, buy underwear with this. Buy socks with this. And since then, our volunteer corps has grown. We have a total of about 25 volunteers. We utilize anywhere from 12 to 18 every Friday morning from 9 till 11 officially. But I get there at 8 in the morning to set up coffee and make sure everything's ready. And every week when I get there, there are at least 2 people waiting outside for showers. And I don't let them in until I have other volunteers there. Or if it's an elderly person that I know, because they come all the time, I let them in. And the bonus that we didn't expect from this is how a mutual faith has grown within the volunteer community. Because hands and feet, they are doing the work. They're doing it together, and they have become a close-knit team of volunteers. And I don't use the word team lightly. We have retired nurses, we have retired teachers, we have some people who are still working, but they take their own time on Friday mornings to come and help. First Baptist Church in Ponchatoula must be a rockin' church because volunteers from that church fall in the door every week. Our kitchen manager is an 89-year-old woman from First Baptist Church in Ponchatoula. And she walked in one day and she looked at me, she said, I know who you are. I've been watching you and I want to help with this. What can I do? Well, at that time, we weren't providing breakfast. We would go buy a box of donuts. And one day I bought a bunch of bananas and some little clementines and we were giving that out. And this volunteer looked at that and she said, now that's a sad breakfast. And the next week she showed up with breakfast casseroles and biscuits. And then after that, there's a restaurant in town called Pool Clip Cafe. Please patronize that place because the owner of that reached out to us and said, every day I have pastries left over from the day before. Do you want them? Started giving them to us. Kate Street Seafood at the time was providing grab-and-go takeout boxes. They don't do that anymore, which is sad for me, because we were the recipients of like 40 and 50 frozen meals, and I'm talking salmon and rice and broccoli, wonderful meals. They stopped doing that, and they said, what can we do? And I said, oh, I need water. We need bottled water. And so they started dropping off cases of bottled water. And the list of organizations and people like that has grown exponentially. So now every Friday morning, this is what happens. I get there at 8 o'clock in the morning. I set up the coffee. I make sure that the volunteers have come in during the week to set up the shopping area where guests can go and pick out a fresh, clean set of clothes. Those volunteers make a list of what we're out of that week and what we need. And then at the end of the day, they give me that list. And all week long, I collect those items. Once all the volunteers are there, we have a check-in desk. And our guests come and they check in. If they've never been there before, they have to sign an agreement, which we explain to them. And we let them read it if they want to, but I say, basically, this is telling me you are not carrying alcohol, drugs, weapons, contraband, or tobacco products. We don't allow any of those things on our campus anywhere. Do you agree to that? And they'll say, yeah. Sometimes they say, I got cigarettes in my bag. And I go, that's okay. You leave your bag over here. We tell them, you may not come and go once you're on the list, You have to stay in here. If you leave for any reason, you may not come back. We tell them they have to behave nicely. And if they don't behave nicely, they have to leave. And we probably won't let them back. Sometimes we give them a probation period. And since we opened February 9th, 2024, we've only had to release one shower guest because he just would not comply. I'm sure he was stoned every time he came in. He was very proprietorial with the whole place, and he would take more items from the shop than he was allotted. And finally one day, my husband said, you know what, you gotta go. People are working very hard here to help you, and you gotta go, and you can't come back. And I noticed when that happened, a couple of other shower guests who were a little challenging also stopped coming. Yay! That's better for our volunteers. They can do a better job. They don't feel threatened, they don't feel nervous, and they feel appreciated. The vast majority of our guests walk through the door, and the first thing they say is, thank you so much for doing this. You're doing a good thing. And if another guest is disrespectful, I'll see one of them walk over and they say, the people at this church are helping us. Don't ruin it for everybody. They don't have to do this. You be nice. So I don't have to play teacher anymore. They self-police it. So they walk in the door. They sign the agreement. They have a seat. We make a list of what they're doing that day. Are they showering? Are they eating? Are they shopping? Those are our three big things. And if it's yes to all things, we keep track of that. We have a volunteer who is a rock star. Her name's Sherry Sullenberger, and we call her the expediter. The guests call her Sergeant Sherry because she keeps track of who has done what and what they need. And she ushers them wherever they need to go. We seat them at a table. Volunteers come take their coffee order. We serve them coffee, and then we bring them a plate of food. They eat their food, they drink their coffee. We have volunteers who sit at the tables as hosts. We call them table hosts. And they visit with our guests. We do this for a couple of reasons. For one thing, we want our guests to feel seen and respected. Second of all, we want to keep track of where our guests are in the building. Because if I was homeless and I went into a church like this one or mine, I can promise you I would be checking the place out for a nice, safe place to tuck away for the night. Whether it meant going upstairs to a classroom or finding a closet, I would do that in lieu of sleeping under a tree in Zamurray Park or sleeping in my car in 19-degree weather or sleeping on the front porch of an acquaintance. So we keep track of them. Then when it's their time to shop and shower, we escort them. We have people who are shoppers who help them shop, and you'd be surprised at some of the things they ask for, because homeless people have so few choices. To be able to pick out their own shirt in a color they like, even though it's used, that's a big deal. So our shoppers help them do that. They help them pick out all of their hygiene products, and they just go down the line. Do you want a shampoo? Do you want a conditioner? Do you need a razor? Do you need a toothbrush, toothpaste, Band-Aids, deodorant, hand sanitizer? Do you need any Band-Aids today? And they go through the whole thing, and they make a little bag of their little, spa bag. And then we take them to the showers. They have 15 minutes. We keep track of them. And in between the showers, one of our volunteers does nothing but scrub the showers. So it's nice and fresh and clean for the next person. And I will tell you, we've had some very dirty people. We've had people who come in who aren't that dirty, but they're full of shame as though they're dirty. And we have people come in who are completely unaware of how filthy they are. And we tend to all of them. So We have a volunteer, 2 volunteers. Interestingly, those are both men, Richard Graves and Kevin Caravato, and they clean those showers in between so that for each guest, it's nice and clean. They shower. Many of them throw their dirty clothes in the garbage. Sometimes they take them with them. We give them a grocery bag, and they leave. If they want to have another cup of coffee and we're not crowded, we welcome that. We have volunteers who do nothing but sit and pray with them if they want that. We don't shove it down their throats. Probably much like your church, Presbyterians tend to evangelize with their hands and feet first. And then once someone's comfortable with that, if they want to know about our faith, we love to talk about it. But we don't shove it down their throats. And then they leave for the day. And that's it. Our shower volunteers clean up everything. Matthew 25:35. The North Lake Homeless Coalition provides staff, sometimes 3 people, and they sit at a table. And as the guests are waiting for their shower or their turn to shop, they can go talk to the people at North Lake Homeless. If they need services, if they need guidance, if they need an intake assessment so they can go into their records, if they're waiting for housing of some sort, we do that. And the next thing I want you to know is I've told you our guests are not who you think they are. They're not the ones you see. Our guests have ranged from age 2 to age 77. They are black, white, male, female, and everything in between. We have women with children who are fleeing a violent domestic situation. We serve at least one military veteran who has PTSD, and he comes in, he's an older gentleman, and when he speaks to me as though I'm a general. He says, "Yes, ma'am. Understood, ma'am." And he'll say, "Ma'am, may I unpack my bag and repack it?" And I say, "Sure." And he spreads everything out, and he folds and refolds everything with precision down to the 1/4 inch, and then he repacks it. He takes 8.5 minutes in the shower, exactly, every single time, and when he leaves, he thanks us. We have children who come with their parents. Lately, we've had a teenager with his mother who's there every week, and he's so ashamed. And he tells me he is enrolled in school in a virtual program. I'm not sure about that. But the mother seems to pride herself with her son's academic skills. So I hope that's true. We have had toddlers. That's rare, but we do get them. So as you can see, it runs the gamut. We have one gentleman who is a school teacher who relocated here from California after an earthquake. He doesn't work anymore. He's elderly, and he's the sweetest man in the world. I'm sure you might have seen him because I see him around town sometimes. Sweet as they can be, grateful. Every time I say, "Do you want me to pray with you?" he'll say, "I don't think so." And I say, "Okay, well, that's all right. If you ever do, I'll pray with you." I said, "But meanwhile, I'm going to pray for you, and you can't stop me." And then he laughs. But our guests are me and you. We're all this far away from being in their situation. And probably like some of you, I have had family members in this situation. Most of the people who end up in this situation, if they don't correct it pretty quickly, it's because mentally they're not capable. They cannot set a goal, make a plan, and follow through. And they have worn their families down to the point where the families are financially depleted, they're emotionally depleted, they're good for nothing, and they finally say, "Enough. Nothing I do helps you." And I understand that. I've been in that very situation. And the attitude is, if I pull back from this family member, then at least one of us is good for something. But what we're doing now makes both of us pretty unproductive. So that's the story of shower ministry. They come in, we feed them. We pray for them, with them if they want. We provide a meal. And by the way, now I think I have 4 volunteers who work in the kitchen. One of them cooks. He cooks French toast, pancakes. Our 89-year-old volunteer comes in with hash brown casseroles, cheese casseroles, eggs. I never know what's going to show up. During the very cold weather, the kitchen staff coordinated, and they brought soup and biscuits. And the volunteers are grateful for it. So if you're one of the people I used to be, and you're afraid, I just want you to understand, you don't need to be any more afraid than you would when you open your doors on Sunday mornings. Because the bottom line is, these people are still precious children of God. And when you look a drug addict in the face, and that you know that person has slept in the park for days, and they're tired, and their family won't speak to them, and they're pretty much done, look at them and try to find the face of God. Because nobody wakes up in the morning, looks in the mirror and says, today I'm going to be such a drunk, I'm going to be so difficult, I am going to be awful. Nobody wakes up and says that. Everything is a reaction. A lot of it is mental illness problems, but at least they can find a couple of hours of relief when they come to shower ministry. The hardest part for me is that I can't do more. And I've watched a couple of our volunteers try to do more. They slip somebody money, which is against all of our rules. They're told not to even bring cash. So they can honestly say, we are trained not to bring cash. I don't have cash. They bring them cash. They end up driving them all over the place. We had one who actually took one of our homeless guests into his home, and none of that lasts. Eventually they come and they say, I can't work here anymore. This is too much. So it's really important to set healthy boundaries and stick to them. And that's what we try to do at First Presbyterian. And having said that, I would welcome any of you, anytime. As a volunteer, as a potential volunteer, coffee is free. You get fine Presbyterian and Baptist company. Come on in. You're welcome to just sit there and watch. And if you feel called to it, we will take you. And the last thing I want you to know is that the social work students at Southeastern have been rock stars with us. They came in because they needed hours, service hours, but that was 2 years ago. And we've got a couple of them who still work with us every single Friday. So it's a valid ministry. It's sometimes a very unpopular ministry. The things I hear, they say, oh, you're busing people in. Well, no, I'm not. That's not where we want to put our money, and we don't need to, because the people we serve are already here. Many of them have lineage from Hammond and the Hammond area. We do not bus anybody in, and I have never heard of that happening in this area. And if you think about it, why would somebody want to be bused to Hammond so they can get basically a public shower once a week and breakfast? That's not good enough for me to take a trip. So don't believe that. And if you're afraid, that's reasonable. I'm afraid to walk the streets some days. Whenever I go to a local school for anything, I think twice. I think, oh, I hope I don't get shot today. At least we ask the questions when they walk in the door. So having said all of that, I want to thank you for inviting me here today. And if you can come up with anything for your church to do to serve the most vulnerable people in our community, those of us who already serve them would be grateful. I thank you so much, and God bless you. Thank you.
As we leave this place, I just wanted to say that I was really grateful for Donna Gay Anderson's presentation as well, because I didn't have to do a sermon this week. As we leave this place today, please take from here the love that God so openly shares with each of us, and share it with everyone you meet out there. Go in peace. Amen.